Hello everybody, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be all about new Japanese books being published in English translation for the first time in 2023. So I hope you enjoyed this video. With no further ado, let's jump right in. And the first I want to start with classics being translated into English for the first time. And the first one is going to be no other as Osamu Dazai. Osamu Dazai and his Flowers of Buffoonery being translated into English for the first time. The book is said to be different in tone from No Longer Human. I didn't read No Longer Human, so I think these two books would be perfect to read together, one after another. Flowers of Buffoonery is said to be comic, hilariously comic, and deeply moving. The story is set in a seaside sanitarium where the narrator of No Longer Human is being kept after a failed suicide attempt. His family and his friends come to visit him, and everybody is trying to keep a light tone, everybody is trying to stay optimistic and positive. They are drinking, they are smoking, they are making jokes, and so the tone of the book is said to be very comic and poking fun on such emotions as follies and hardships of youth, of love, and of self-hatred and depression. A glimpse into the lives of a group of outsiders in pre-war Japan. The Flowers of Buffoonery is a darkly humorous and fresh addition to Osamu Dazai's masterful and intoxicating masterpiece. So this is the first book which I am very excited about, and I hope you're excited about it as well. And now, Osamu Dazai, we have talked about the father. Now let's talk about daughter, because his daughter's book is also being translated into English, and that's no other as Yuko Tsushima. I read Yuko Tsushima's Territory of Light long time ago, a few years back. I will link the reading vlog somewhere here if I find it. And I really enjoyed that story. Yuko Tsushima was 1 year old when Osamu Dazai committed suicide and passed away, and she was left with her mom, and so her main experience in life is being a daughter of a single mother and being a single mother herself. So the books, for example, The Territory of Light that I read, and A Child of Fortune, I think, the other book that I still haven't read by her, they are all dedicated to this topic of women outsiders, because they are like single mothers. And so yeah, she writes about their experiences. And her new book, Woman Running in the Mountains, is going to be no different from these topics. In this book we also follow a young woman who is running into the hospital to give birth to her son. Her pregnancy is a result of a one-time stand with a married man. And this pregnancy is cause of deep sorrow and shame for her parents, and so she is pretty much alone by herself, and she decides that this baby, this child, will be only hers, and that she will give this child her love, all of her love that she has. And so when the baby is born, she is living by herself, and she's raising the baby by herself, and the baby causes a lot of pleasures and happiness to her as a mother. But as the baby grows, she starts also discovering, I guess, herself and who she is, and she wants to experience freedom, as it is said in the summary. Yeah, so as the baby grows, her life becomes less circumscribed as she explores Tokyo, then ventures beyond the city into the countryside toward a mountain that captures her imagination and desire for a wilder freedom. So that's what the book is said to be. I'm curious. I have heard two books, as I said, and I want to get this one as well. Next book, also by a classic that I want to mention, is The Rainbow, or Beyond the Rainbow. There can be like a different translation, by Yasunari Kawabata. And I also love Yasunari Kawabata. I have, I think, 2 vlogs where I read his books. I will link one of them here. I think that was Beauty and Sadness, so I will link that vlog, Beauty and Sadness, which I also really enjoyed. And this is a new work by Yasunari Kawabata, and this is about past Second World War Japan, where two young girls are being born. They are daughters of the same father but different mothers, and it's a story about them growing up and experiencing different things, and about the bond, the unbreakable bond of a family, but also about young women growing up. For example, one of them is experiencing first love, but she is also obsessed with looking for her third sibling. So she's looking for her brother, she's being in love. The other girl is haunted by loss of her kamikaze boyfriend, and she remembers her last time with him and how disturbing it was. And so she tries to find comfort in different love affairs, which are not very healthy and not really helping her to overcome the trauma. So it is said in the synopsis that also both sisters find themselves unable to outrun the legacies of their late mothers. A thoughtful, probing novel about the enduring traumas of war, the unbreakable bond of family, and the inescapability of the past. The Rainbow is a searching, melancholy work from one of Japan's greatest writers. I think this is the book that I'm the most excited, and it's like on par with one more book which I'm also very excited about. Yasunari Kawabata writes disturbing books like no one else. His books are usually, like the ones that I read, they're a little, they are disturbing, they are very psychological, they are very dark, but he writes it like nobody else. They are very poetic at the same time. Another book which I'm very excited about, on par with Yasunari Kawabata, is, drumroll please, The Marshland by Kaga Otahiko. I have two books by him, let me show you. So this is one of them. It's in Russian because I couldn't find him in English. The Marshland is actually, I think, the second book that is being translated into English by this author, and he is actually a very well-known author in Japan, and he's beloved in Japan, and he's even being translated into Russian. Not a lot, but one of his like biggest works, which is The Size of War and Peace. I only know that book's Russian title is in Russian, and then this one, Takayama Ukon, is also in Russian, which I am very delighted to have. And now The Marshland is going to be translated, so I'm very much looking forward to being introduced to Kaga Otahiko, because he has written a ton of books as far as I understand, and he's very popular in Japan, and he has won tons of awards, and he's like very respected and very beloved here. So this is the man himself. So yeah, this year is going to be me hopefully jumping into Kaga Otahiko and taking you along. So The Marshland is being published in English, and Marshland, as it is said in the synopsis, is an epic novel on a Tolstoyan scale, running from the pre-World War II period to the turbulence of the 1960s Japan. And it is something about this simple man working in like small town Japan. He is working as a mechanic, and his colleagues, they do know his past in the military, but what they don't know his dark story that happened to him after the war, when he got meshed up in the kind of mafia dealings. That is the time when some kind of uprising is taking place in Japan, and a lot of students are participating in it, and he takes his nephew to one of the university's protests just out of the interest, just to see what is going on there. And there he meets a woman who is very educated, very talented. She's a daughter of a professor, but she's very emotionally unstable. They start romantic relationship, and at the same time they participate in this uprising, and eventually both of them are falsely accused of a murder. So that's something like that. Apparently a lot of things are going to happen. This is a big book. I feel I don't remember the exact page, but I think it's something about 800, so it's a big book, and a lot of things are going to happen there. During their long imprisonment, the novel becomes a Kafkaesque procedural revealing the corrupt intricacies of the police and judicial system of Japan. Political, historical, beautiful, beloved Japanese author. So yeah, this is another book that I'm particularly excited about on this list. So yeah, Kaga Atahiko. One more book I'm very excited about is The End of August by Yu Miri. Beginning of last year, I read Yu Miri's Tokyo Ueno Station, which won National Book Award for translated fiction, and I really enjoyed that one. So now I'm very much looking forward to her new release. And this book is said to be a story of life in Korea, a Korean family during the Japanese occupation. It was set in the 20th century Korea. The story begins with a young woman preparing to run a marathon. Her granddad was also a marathon runner. He was a prodigy, but he refused to participate in competitions under the Japanese flag, and that's why he couldn't participate. And now, when his granddaughter is preparing for her marathon, she asks Korean shamans to perform a procedure to summon the soul of her granddad. The soul appears along with the soul of his brother, and from her granddad and from her grand uncle, I don't know, she learns about all the horrors that her family went through during the 20th century. And it's a family saga set in the 20th century during the World War II in Korea. I feel like it's going to be a heart-wrenching story, a terrifying one. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to it. One more classic whose work is receiving a new translation and a new publication is Junichiro Tanizaki, and we are getting a new selection of three of his short stories. These three short stories are united by the topic of eroticism and fantasy, so he mixes two of these things together. They also reflect his fascination with the Japanese and Chinese folklore. So it's the commingling of Japanese and Chinese mythologies, the chillingly dark side of desire, and the paper-thin line between the sublime and the depraved. Now we are off to more contemporary books, which I don't know much about the authors, and I haven't read anything by them before. So these books are going to be new, and these authors are going to be new to you, and maybe not to you, but to me. So the first kind of modern book is called Honeybees and Distant Thunder by Riku Onda. This book is said to be hugely popular in Japan, 1 million copies sold in Japan, and it is something about three young students. They're pianists, and they're participating in a piano competition, and it's said to be something about their friendship. They write that three students will experience some of the most joyous and painful moments of their lives. Though they don't know it yet, each will profoundly and unpredictably change the others forever. And it is said to be tender, cruel, compelling, unflinching story of love, courage, and rivalry. Most of all, it shows how three young people reconcile with the highs and lows of what it means to be truly a friend. Sounds heartwarming, like books about friendship, books about young people and students must be charming at least. So yeah, this one sounds interesting. One more book which is, I feel like it's going to be very charming, but I couldn't find a synopsis for it, so I only know the title, the author, and that it's going to be released in 2023. But the book is Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa. This book. What can we say about this? Days in a bookshop. I assume that it's going to be charming because it's set in a bookshop. Usually books that are set in bookshops, they are, you know, this heartwarming, soul-warming type of books. So I hope, yeah, this is going to be interesting, and apparently it is also a bestseller in Japan. And I think I even saw a movie based off this book, if I am not mistaken. So this is another popular book that is going to be translated into English. One more book is Hit Parade of Tears by Izumi Suzuki. Izumi Suzuki, as far as I understand, is very prominent and well known among sci-fi lovers. And she writes very distinct and kind of psychedelic stories. She's quite prominent, as far as I understand. Some people even describe her as a cult writer, which I haven't read anything by her. If you know anything about Izumi Suzuki, let me know in the comments. But she also has another collection of short stories out. The first collection is called Terminal Boredom. I've seen that book around, but I never bought it. Like, I don't own a copy. But I did read that, like, it's a very distinct and specific sci-fi. And so now a new collection of her short stories is being published. Also sci-fi, also specific and different. And yeah, some of the sci-fi lovers might enjoy this collection. And the last book that I want to mention in today's video is called The Forest Brims Over by Maru Ayase. This sounds very bizarre. This sounds quite bizarre. The story is that we have a wife and a husband. The husband is a writer, and he uses his wife as kind of a character in her novels. So he writes his novels of his wife. And so now, because he's a very popular writer, everybody knows pretty much everything about this woman. She has no privacy because he has written all of it about her in her books. And she gets, I guess, frustrated, and she starts turning into a forest. Don't ask, do not ask, I don't know. She starts turning into a forest, and instead of bringing her like to a hospital or like anything like that, her husband actually locks her in a like a glass container, and then she just grows out of this glass container and she overtakes the whole city. So sounds interesting and very bizarre. Actually, it a little bit reminded me of The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Just like the premise, a little bit reminded me about that, because there a woman also was kind of dreaming about turning into a tree. So yeah, another bizarre book which might interest some of you. I don't know if I will be reading it, but I might or maybe I might not, we will see, but it sounds fascinating. So yeah, there you have it, 10 new Japanese books being translated into English for the first time in 2023. Let me know in the comments which books interest you, which ones of these books you would like to pick up and read. Quite a few classics are being translated, which is very exciting for me personally. I hope this year to pull myself together and start reading more consistently again. So hopefully I will be able to get to some of these books. But yeah, sure, please let me know in the comments which books would you like to pick up for yourself. And for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a very good day. I congratulate you with a new 2023. Happy New Year, and I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.